This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs, and my guests today are Anna and Al Dressler. And Anna is a rising senior at Padua Academy in Wilmington. Anna, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
And Al is Anna's bodyguard and mostly father, right?
Cab driver.
Cab driver and everything else. Good.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
listen, thanks both of you for coming on the program today. We're going to be talking about Tourette syndrome, which is something that, Anna, you've had since you were very, very young, correct? We're going to be talking about that and about just some of the things that you do to help promote awareness. You are a youth ambassador for the Tourette's Association of America. We're going to be talking about that as well. So let's start off with just getting to know you a little bit. Why don't you start off, Anna? Tell us about yourself.
I'm Anna Dressler. I'm 16, and I have Tourette syndrome, as we have said. I like to write and roller skate. I really love physics. That's one thing.
You don't write and roller skate at the same time, do you? No,
Nope.
Two separate things. That's good. That's good. It can be dangerous to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are some things that I like. I do really like all of the stuff that I'm doing right now, this podcast, the Youth Ambassador Program. I guess that's it.
Great. Awesome. And Al, how about you?
Yeah, so married, my wife Kathy and I for over 20 years, just over 20 years now. We're members at St. Catherine of Siena Parish on Centerville Road. Send our kids to Catholic school. Both my wife and I are, products of Catholic schools, K through 16 actually. Both graduated from Catholic colleges. Our oldest graduated from Padua. Anna's at Padua. Our youngest just graduated Holy Angels and going to Padua.
I see a trend here.
Yeah. So the high school and college I went to are both Franciscan. So St. Anthony of Padua is natural for
That's
me.
great.
And I'm a math instructor at Del Tech Community College.
Awesome. Anna, where did you go to elementary school?
So I went to All Saints, and then it shut down when I was in 7th grade.
Right.
And for 8th grade, and I think the remainder of 7th grade was at St. John's. So
St. John the Beloved.
St. John the Beloved,
yes.
right.
Graduated from.
Awesome.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, so now that we get to know you a little bit more, tell us, Anna, what is Tourette's syndrome?
So Tourette syndrome is a neurodevelopmental disorder. So it occurs during childhood, and it changes as the brain grows and the child ages. It has for the diagnosis. It has two, I think. Yeah, it's two things for the criteria. One vocal tic and 2 motor tics for over a year. So that's the diagnostic criteria, and most people have maybe more than just the 2 motor tics and 1 vocal tic. They have both tics. So
And you've had that for as long as you can remember?
I don't really remember many tics in childhood. They got really worse when I was 14, which actually prompted the diagnosis at 15.
I see. So
Yeah.
this is something kind of new to you then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And do you know how many people have Tourette's?
1 in 160 children, I think, have Tourette syndrome, and I think 1 in 50 have Tourette syndrome plus.
Or
No, wait.
another tic disorder.
I think that's switched. That. What is
Well,
it
it's 1 in
called?
50 have
Statistic.
Tourette's
Yeah,
or
1
a
in-
tic disorder.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yep.
And is it something that you will age out, or that will get better as you get older, or you think it's something that you'll have for the rest of your life?
I definitely think it's gotten better as I've gotten older. But some people do have it for the rest of their life. And their tics are either mild or severe, and most people's tics get more mild as they age, I think. But then obviously events in life can happen, and they can get more severe.
Right.
So.
Right. And but how is it treated? I mean, do you take a medication or?
So there are 2 most common treatments, which are medication and then CBIT therapy. And CBIT is cognitive behavioral intervention for tics, which is something that I did, and it really helped. It basically has this process called competing responses, and the competing responses are something done when you get the urge to tic. So most people, when they have tics, they have the premonitory urge, which is like the urge before the tic happens.
So you kind of feel it coming on.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
you feel it, and then you need to do it to get rid of the feeling.
Right.
And basically, we made competing responses for me, and those actually really worked to help.
So you would do something else to substitute for the tic.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what CBIT is.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you really get to know a lot about different things that you probably wouldn't otherwise know about.
Yeah.
And then also, medication helps as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, how has Tourette's affected your life?
I think it was really hard going into high school
Mm-hmm.
when my tics were really severe, because, like, I had vocal tics that were complex, so it means, like, saying words or phrases,
Mm-hmm.
when usually vocal tics can be, like, clearing your throat and sniffing, which are, like, the more mild ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that kind of, what's it called, affected my self-esteem,
Sure.
until really I made more friends, and I think
Yeah.
that the friends really helped me.
Yeah. Starting high school is difficult for everybody, So
Yeah.
when you add, this to it, it must have been very stressful for you. How did you become an ambassador for the Tourette's Association of America?
So I was actually doing a project in web page design class. The teacher said that we could make a website on anything, and I made it on Tourette syndrome, so like an educational website, sort of similar to what you'd see on like the CDC or Tourette.org. And I was looking at Tourette.org for my resources and sources I was going off of for this website, and I saw their youth ambassador program, and I was like, oh, I want to do this.
Huh.
But I had missed the deadline that year, so then I got to submit the application this year and do it again.
Mm-hmm. So what are your duties as a youth ambassador?
So a youth ambassador they're required to do 3 presentations after they do their training in DC, which happened in March this year. So we went to DC and we did the training, and then we did Advocacy Day, which is where we go and talk to representatives of Congress members or the Congress members themselves from our states. So
And who did you talk to?
we talked to a bunch of the representatives, staff members for the Congress people, Lisa Blunt Rochester's staff members.
Who was a Padua graduate,
Yes.
right? So he had
Yep.
something in common there. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Then Tom Carper's representative,
Mm-hmm.
and what's the other? Oh, Chris Coons.
Yeah.
His
Yeah,
is that
Senator
right?
Coons, yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that seems like a kind of an interesting thing to go to Washington and actually, talk to staffers of our representatives. What other duties?
I guess really to advocate and educate the public on
Like-
this disorder.
Like this,
So,
like
yeah,
like being on
Yep.
podcast and so
Yep,
forth.
and you've given one presentation already.
I
right,
have.
at Resurrection Parish, and
Yes.
Oh,
you have
nice.
2 more lined up on Monday at Holy Angels. There were actually all of this, so there's going to be 2 presentations. It'll be a second grade through 4th grade, and then a presentation to the 5th through 7th graders.
Yeah.
And then you have one lined up for Newcastle County. I guess their youth workforce. They do a conference, so the Newcastle County program. She's going to focus mostly on the advocacy piece for that, but then give the present. It's a standard presentation created by the CDC, and the youth ambassador program is funded through the CDC.
Okay, all right, cool. Have you ever run into another young person who says, "Hey, I have Tourette syndrome," and do you kind of like share stories or offer some advice?
Well, really, I actually, when I was in DC, I met a lot of people with
Right.
Tourette syndrome.
Right.
But before that, I did meet 2 other people with Tourette syndrome. We just kind of met, talked. There wasn't really much advice shared between us, but I think when I was at DC, I shared a lot more advice for other people
Right.
with Tourette syndrome, and I met a lot of people with the disorder.
Yeah. Did do you ever? Well, let's talk about your Catholic faith. I mean, your family's very, very Catholic. You were raised Catholic. Has that helped you at all to cope with Tourette's?
I think being different is obviously a good thing, but sometimes I think when you look at yourself and you're like, oh, I'm different, it's hard to imagine that you were made in the image and likeness of God. But I'm always reminded that I am made in the image and likeness of God, and He made me this way.
Yeah.
God made me who I am, and He didn't make any mistakes with that. So
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's a very important thing that
Absolutely.
any person who struggles with anything should remind themselves that they are made in the image and likeness of God,
Yeah.
and we should when we see other people, we should feel that way as well. And how about Padua Academy, Anna? How's that been? How's the environment there for you? Have they been welcoming and helpful?
Well, I think the teachers were a really big thing. A lot of them were helpful, and they're like, oh, you just have this disorder and it's not gonna really affect the class or anything. And I think making those friends at Padua was really important, because once you realize you have those people who don't care about your tics or your Tourette syndrome, it's like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would add that the counselors and the teachers were great, and we asked for extended time on tests and things like that, and Padua was just, they accommodated for anything that we needed. We just showed them documentation,
Right.
and they got to know Anna, and Anna doesn't always use that, doesn't really need it,
Right.
But the availability is there,
Yeah.
and they worked with us. They were wonderful.
How about your classmates and the other girls? They welcoming?
Yeah, a lot of them are. But last year, there was this one girl who was new, and she kept staring at me during math class, and that was kind of sad, because maybe she didn't know what Tourette syndrome was, maybe
Right.
she didn't know why I was making noises, but it still made me sad when she would turn around and look at me.
Sure. And how did you do that? Did you go up and talk to her afterwards?
Not really, and she did it every class. I guess I was kind of scared to go up to her,
Yeah.
because I didn't know her.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, maybe next year, maybe you can, just have a chat with her and explain it to her, maybe, because, people don't understand things unless you tell them about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think we kind of touched on this, but suppose there's someone listening to this podcast or watching this video, and they might be in your same situation. You've already given them a nice piece of advice to keep in mind that they're made in God's image, but any other advice that you would give to them?
Well, when my tics got really severe, I was like, oh, this is horrible. But I'd say that your life doesn't really end if you start having more severe tics. If that happens, you can still do a lot of things. And once you find that support group and those friends, it really makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say to reach out to support groups and other people, try to find those people, those friends that will accept you. Your life doesn't really end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do your tics get worse if you're under, say, a stressful situation, or does that matter at all?
Yeah, stress and anxiety and excitement and even talking about tics does can make them worse,
Mm-hmm.
more severe. So yeah.
You're doing great.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Al, what advice would you give to parents who might have a young person in their family who have Tourette's?
I mean, the main thing is just be supportive
Yeah.
of your child, and I know that Anna also, we didn't get into this earlier, but with Tourette syndrome, there's usually co-occurring conditions, ADHD being one, and OCD. Those are the most prevalent co-occurring conditions. Anna also has ADHD. So just, always being supportive of your child, and knowing your child, knowing the limitations, knowing what your child can do, can't do. And,
Right.
I know there's times where and you'll probably agree, that I try to push you to do things and you don't want to, and then finally I'm like, okay, let's just take a break. You know, there's been a couple times where I've done that, right? Let's just take a break. Don't worry, we can always revisit it later.
Sure.
At another time, especially with stress and anxiety.
And that's good advice for any parent, for any
exactly,
child.
Yeah, knowing any child,
Yeah.
But also too, when the tics started getting really severe, I mean, we were we remember going to Dick's and buying, because you would bang your hands
Yeah.
together. So we're trying to find gloves that would help you, and just reaching out to the right organizations.
Right.
Tourette Association of America has a wonderful website. That's where we found some information about support groups and doctors and things like that, and then just advocating for your child. Like once I remember freshman, it was I guess the one of the freshman gatherings. And right up to the teachers that were there and said, okay, Anna has this, you might exhibit these tics. And they were just,
Super,
so
yeah.
welcoming and supportive, but just advocating
That's great.
for your child and finding the best treatment.
And you're the middle child.
Yes.
You have an older sister and a younger sister.
Yep.
How are they?
The younger sister, what would you mean by how are they?
I mean, are they nice to you, or do they, or they? I guess they're just typical sisters, where you have good days and bad days, right?
Yeah.
That's good. Anything else, Al? Any other kind of advice that you'd like to give, or anything that we're missing?
Just also know that, so I didn't understand Tourette's when I first, I've heard of it, but I accompanied Anna on the advocacy day and the youth ambassador program, and I just learned so much about Tourette Association. So finding the information, knowing that the tics do lessen in frequency and severity as time goes on. Usually it's around this adolescent teenage years where they're in the hormones, where they're the worst.
Right.
And then just providing the environment that, just loving and welcoming environment.
Right. Are there doctors that specialize in this sort of thing in Delaware?
Yeah, we had to. So there are with Nemours,
Right.
the Children's Hospital.
Right. That's a great
Usually,
resource.
yeah, definitely. But usually it falls under behavioral health, and they did not have CBIT. We did not want to use medication, so we went with cognitive behavioral intervention for tics, CBIT, and we had to find someone else. That was a little struggle. It took a little while,
Right.
but the neurologist at Nemours gave us information and some resources, and it took almost a year, I think, to find someone. But
Yeah.
once Anna did the CBIT therapy, the tics improved so much.
Yeah.
It was so much better.
That's great.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for you, Anna? What are your plans?
Well, I'm doing all the college stuff right now.
Yeah.
College essays, all of that.
That's not stressful at all, right?
Kind of very stressful.
Yeah.
I think in the future I'd like to study physics, maybe be a physicist, and I am looking into ROTC, and I hopefully my Tourette syndrome will not be a disqualifying condition once I try to get in services.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is, I'll probably just be a physicist, study physics, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's great. You're good with math and science.
I'd say I'm not really good with math, but I'm better with science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. How can our listeners, how can our viewers get more information about Tourette syndrome and about the Tourette's Association of America?
So there's the website, tourette.org. Obviously, you can look that up, and you can see more information on Tourette syndrome. Then you can go to the CDC and their website. You can always go to social media. You could probably find someone online who is spreading awareness as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where you can get a lot of information from, really.
Yeah.
Like CDC and all of that.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of social media yourself?
Not really, but I've seen a lot of people who do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about the summer? What have you got going on?
Well, I'm going to be working for the roller skating rink that I work at.
Okay, nice.
I'm going to Villanova for a Naval ROTC summer seminar.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess that's it, really.
Very good. Well, Anna and Al Druschler, thanks so much for being with us today
you for having
on Catholic Forum. It was great to meet you. It's good to see you again, Al. We go back a ways.
Yes, we do.
Were we on the was it the San Marcos
Yes.
committee together?
Yes, we were.
And that was probably 20 couple years ago, I would think.
Yeah, 20 couple.
Yeah,
at least.
exactly. So it's good to see you.
Yeah,
Congratulations
good to see
on
you,
having such a wonderful daughter. I'm sure you're very proud of her.
I am absolutely
and
proud of
and
that.
and thanks. Good luck to you, Anna.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks.